Welcome to your custom deep dive. Usually when you and I look at a city map, we sort of think of it as, well, static.
Yeah, it feels permanent, objective, right? You just assume the lines on the paper were always meant to be there.
Exactly. You draw a line, you build a road, and that's it. It's basically just an instruction manual for how to get from point A to point B.
Right, but that's almost never the actual reality on the ground.
No, not at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you look closely at a city with, these deep overlapping layers of history, suddenly that map isn't a set of instructions anymore.
It's more like a living, breathing document.
Right, a document full of scars, erasures, and secrets. You realize that a simple line on the pavement might actually be hiding a massive, unresolved collision between the past and the present.
And, well, to explore that friction, we have a really fascinating focus for you today.
We do. And right off the bat, I need to let you know that this deep dive is a special installment. It serves as part of Giannis Stefanidis' podcast, dromos, echi, city.Today.
Which, for our non-Greek speakers, translates to, the street has its own story.
Yeah, the street has its own story. And the specific street we are unpacking today has a story that, honestly, it touches on almost every failure and triumph of modern urban planning.
It really does. It's just the perfect microcosm of how cities struggle.
So our mission today is to peel back the layers of this single fascinating road in Thessaloniki. We're talking about Olympiados Street.
Olympiados Street, yeah.
We are going to explore its forgotten old name, the architectural treasures that are just kind of hiding in plain sight along its sidewalks, and this massive archaeological secret buried right beneath the asphalt.
Not to mention the rather harsh reality of its modern daily use, because balancing the relentless demand for modernization with, the heavy weight of a city's heritage is, well, it's messy.
It is incredibly messy. So let's start with the geography.
Right.
Because to understand what Olympiados Street is today, we first have to understand what it used to be, right?
Right. And exactly where it sits in the anatomy of Thessaloniki.
Exactly. This isn't just a random road meant to carry traffic. It operates as a definitive geographical and historical border.
A fault line, basically.
Yeah, a fault line. It is the dividing line separating the historic Poli, which is the upper town, from the bustling modern city center.
And that concept of the urban boundary here is crucial, Olympiados doesn't just connect 2 points. It acts as a seam between 2 entirely different philosophies of city life.
How so? What are the 2 philosophies?
Well, to put it in context, after the massive fire of 1917, which destroyed the lower part of Thessaloniki, that whole area was rebuilt.
Right, they brought in modern planners.
Exactly. They used a highly rational modern grid system. But the Poli, the upper town, it actually survived the fire.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it completely survived.
Yeah, so it kept its organic, winding, medieval street layout. So Olympiados Street is the physical fault line where those 2 worlds physically collide.
So on one side, you have the winding historic fabric, and on the other, the dense, gridded commercial reality. And like any good character living a double life on a fault line, this street actually went through an identity shift. It wasn't always called Olympiados.
No, it wasn't. Archival sources reveal it was previously known as Old Athenas, or Athenas.
Old Athenas. And it wasn't just a sweeping, casual name change on a sign. This was a meticulous, address-by-address administrative overhaul.
It really was.
For instance, if you were looking for what used to be Old Athenas 75, today you would be standing at Olympiados 101.
Which is fascinating because when a street changes its name and its entire numbering system like that, it fundamentally alters how residents relate to their own neighborhood.
Yeah, it's like an administrative erasure of a previous identity.
Exactly. You are essentially forcing a new mental map onto the people who live there.
But, is it really an erasure, or is it just bureaucratic paperwork? Changing the name on a street sign doesn't actually change the physical pavement.
Well, no, the concrete is the same.
Right. It's kind of like finding out your very serious uncle used to go by a completely different nickname in the 70s.
That's a great way to put it.
You look at him differently but he's still the same guy.
Yeah.
So does changing Old Athenas to Olympiados actually change the street's function as this rigid, almost invisible wall between neighborhoods?
Well, it doesn't change the physical pavement, but it changes the civic intention.
Okay, what do you mean by civic intention?
So urban planners rename and renumber streets to impose order, right? To integrate an organic boundary into a unified city system.
Right, trying to make it all fit on a neat grid.
Exactly. But streets like Olympiados are often born out of natural topography or, the limits of ancient defensive walls.
Which you can't just erase with a new street sign.
Right. As Thessaloniki expanded outward and downward toward the sea, the new development followed that modern logic. But the thoroughfare sitting right at the intersection of that old organic growth and the new planned expansion, it naturally hardens into a boundary.
It becomes a transitional seam.
Yes, a seam where the city has to constantly negotiate its own scale and speed. You can change the name to try and modernize it, but the topography will always enforce that boundary.
That makes a lot of sense. And because it sits right on that seam, right on that topographical fault line, Olympiados is physically dotted with these incredible architectural relics.
Oh, the architecture is amazing.
The modern grid pushed up against this boundary, but it just couldn't wash everything away.
It's a fascinating architectural phenomenon, honestly. When mass modernization sweeps through an area, it tends to eradicate the smaller, fragile structures first.
The wooden houses, the little sheds.
Yeah, exactly. But what gets left behind are these robust anomalies.
Boulders in a river, that's what I like to call them. These old buildings are like boulders in a river. The modern grid just flowed right around them, eroding the narrow alleys but leaving the stubborn, heavy foundations behind.
That is a perfect analogy.
And if you walk down this boundary line today, you can spot these boulders. For example, sitting at the northwest corner of Olympiados in St. Dragoumi is the preserved Karipeion Melathron.
Which is incredibly significant.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the Karipeion Melathron is one of the few surviving Ottoman-era administrative buildings in the whole city.
Oh, wow.
It just stands there with its distinct overhanging architecture, serving as this glaring reminder of the Ottoman layer of Thessaloniki that the modern grid largely paved over.
Right, and it's not just the grand administrative buildings either. There's an old fountain tucked near a small alley at Olympiados 59, the Themistokli Agilidi alley.
I love that one.
Keep going, and there's a sprawling old mansion at the Raktavan intersection. Down at Olympiados 41, there's a traditional house with a surviving well. It's like a scavenger hunt of antiquity.
It really is. And notice how deeply domestic and functional those specific remnants are.
Yeah, a fountain, a well.
Right. A public fountain, a private well, a residential mansion. These are echoes of daily life from a completely bygone era, just quietly interrupting the modern streetscape.
They survived largely by chance, I guess.
Chance, or sometimes by the sheer stubbornness of the property owners, honestly, while the entire neighborhood was aggressively transformed around them.
But they did survive.
They did.
And that brings us to the major historical drama of the street, where survival wasn't so guaranteed.
Yeah, this is the big one.
The real focal point of this tension between the old and the new revolves around a very specific address, Olympiados 90.
This is where the narrative shifts from quiet accidental preservation to active physical collision.
So picture this for a second. The city decides it needs to widen Olympiados Street, specifically at the Agia Sophias intersection.
A very standard municipal decision.
Right. The logic is simple. We need more room for cars. The city is growing. Traffic is backing up. We need a wider artery. So they bring in the heavy machinery. They start tearing up the road to add capacity, and the workers strike something massive.
They unearthed a Byzantine cistern.
A huge one.
Yeah, and to understand the gravity of this, we really need to understand what a Byzantine cistern actually is. Because this isn't just a buried bucket or a small well.
No, it's monumental.
Exactly. It is a monumental piece of civic engineering.
We are talking about a structure so large, it literally takes up half the width of the entire street and extends outward into a neighboring plot.
Right. Byzantine engineers were masters of water management. They built these massive, brick-vaulted, subterranean reservoirs to capture and hold water, ensuring the city could survive droughts or, sieges.
So they were basically giant underground lakes.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And the structural integrity of these cisterns relies on vaulted arches, which distribute the immense weight of the earth above them evenly down into the supporting pillars.
But tragically, they weren't designed to support the point-load impact of 20th century heavy machinery.
No, they certainly were not.
During this road widening project, the bulldozers partially destroyed the vaulted roof of this ancient structure. They literally crushed it before they even fully realized what they were driving over.
And this raises a profound question about the underlying ideology of urban development, doesn't it? The collision wasn't just physical, it was a clash of priorities.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the city's mandate for increased vehicular speed violently intersected with a 1,000-year-old infrastructure designed to sustain life.
Okay, but I have to stop you there, though. Is it really an ideological clash, or is it just bad municipal planning?
Bad planning is part of it, for sure.
I mean, Destroying the roof of a Byzantine monument just to add a lane for cars feels less like a grand urban paradox and more like someone just didn't do their surveying math before bringing in the excavators.
That's a fair point.
Like smashing a priceless antique vase because you needed a place to drop your car keys. They didn't have ground-penetrating radar. Can we really blame the planners for hitting something they couldn't see?
Look, it's a fair pushback. You obviously can't blame a bulldozer operator for hitting a buried vault, but you can analyze the haste of the project.
The rush to get it done.
Exactly.
Right.
Urban planning in the mid to late 20th century was notoriously biased toward the automobile. Speed and flow were prioritized above all else.
Gotcha.
The timeline for expanding a road is measured in months, whereas the ground it's expanding over operates on a timeline of centuries. The modern city often acts like a blunt instrument because the political desire for a wider road is so intense that archaeological caution is treated as an obstacle.
So it's acceptable collateral damage.
In a very real way, yes. The mechanical violence inflicted on the vaulted roof was treated as acceptable collateral damage for the sake of progress.
It's the ultimate manifestation of out of sight, out of mind, right up until your bulldozer actually falls through the roof of the past.
Literally.
But, to the city's credit, once the roof was breached, they did stop.
They did.
The authorities halted the roadwork, and extensive excavations took place between 1987 and 1989. They mapped it out, they stabilized it, and they realized exactly what they had found.
Which is incredible.
It is. And this is where the narrative shifts from the accidental destruction of a monument to something even more baffling.
The intentional administrative tragedy of what happened after the cistern was supposedly saved.
Yes, what we should call the mystery of the €400,000 locked door.
Such a frustrating story.
It really is. After the initial shock and the excavations in the late 80s, a massive coordinated effort was made to save and showcase the cistern at Olympiados 90.
And geographically, this made perfect sense, right?
Oh, absolutely. This site sits right next to the newly restored Byzantine bath on Theotokopoulos. The whole area is incredibly rich in Byzantine history.
The intention was brilliant. They wanted to create a historical nexus, a pedestrian experience, where a local resident or, a tourist could witness these different monumental facets of Byzantine life side by side.
And they put serious, highly audited money behind this intention. By 2003, conservation works were completed using European funds.
Big money.
We know the exact numbers, too. €189,982 were spent purely on the restoration of the site.
Wow.
On top of that, another €200,000 were spent by the Ministry of Culture just for expropriations, buying the adjacent private land to secure the site. So we are looking at an investment of nearly €400,000.
Which represents a massive financial and administrative commitment. The state and the European Union clearly recognized the inherent cultural value of the cistern and followed through with the funding required to not just stabilize the ruin, but to integrate it into the public realm.
And they did everything right. They didn't just pour concrete around it and walk away.
No, they made it a real destination.
They fully landscaped it. They planted trees to create a microclimate. They installed beautiful protective railings. They built a specialized entrance staircase right on Olympiados Street to invite people down into the space.
They even put in ramps to ensure full disabled access.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was a textbook, modern, inclusive archaeological restoration.
It was designed to be a triumph of urban archaeological integration, a space meant to be experienced, to be a breathing part of the neighborhood again.
But, and here is the gut punch of this whole story, according to reports spanning all the way up to 2017, the site has been completely locked and inaccessible to the public for 14 years.
Yeah.
A fully funded, beautifully restored, accessible archaeological site that absolutely no citizen is allowed to enter.
This is where we see bureaucratic inertia become its own form of destruction, honestly. You have the physical preservation of the stone, but a complete failure in the social activation of the space.
But why? I mean, why would you spend €400,000, build ramps, plant trees, and then just lock the gate and walk away? It defies logic.
It defies common sense, but it perfectly follows the flawed logic of public heritage funding.
What do you mean?
It comes down to the difference between capital expenditure and OpEx operational expenditure.
Okay, break that down for me. I'm not an accountant.
Fair enough. So European Union grants and national culture funds are almost entirely designed for CapEx. They give you a massive lump sum of money to build the stairs, restore the stones, and install the ramps.
The physical stuff.
Right. And politicians love this because they get a ribbon-cutting ceremony. The project is, quote-unquote, finished, But those grants do not cover OpEx, the daily operational costs.
Ah, I see where this is going.
Yeah, they don't pay the ongoing salaries for security guards, ticket takers, or maintenance staff.
So the municipality takes the grant to save the stones.
Exactly, but then the local municipality, which is often severely budget constrained, is left holding the bag for the daily operations. They literally can't afford the staff to unlock the gate and keep the site secure.
Wow.
So the safest, cheapest option is to just lock it and leave it.
That is maddening. I mean, you, the listener, imagine this.
Yeah.
You live in this neighborhood. You walk past this gate every single day to get your coffee or catch a bus. You see the trees, you see the ramps, you see the stairs heading down into this beautifully lit cavern, and there's a heavy padlock on the gate. Year after year, you are completely barred from experiencing your own local history.
It transforms the monument from a public asset into a public frustration. The funding paid for the physical restoration, but heritage management requires administrative will.
And ongoing cash.
Right. When that fails, the monument becomes a ghost. It's visible, but untouchable, preserved in a vacuum.
It's almost worse than if they had just paved over the whole thing, because now it's actively taunting you. It's a 400,000 euro display case that you can't touch.
It really is.
And this brings us to the ultimate irony of Olympiados Street. Let's think back to the original justification for the damage to the cistern. The city needed to widen the street for the sake of vehicular progress.
They sacrificed the vaulted roof of a 1,000-year-old water reservoir for the promise of modern traffic flow.
Right, so they locked away the past to make room for the cars of the future. But if you stand on that street today, you realize the cars aren't moving either.
No, they are not.
Did that sacrifice actually solve the street's traffic problems? The reality is incredibly clear. Today, Olympiados is a severely problematic artery. In its current form, it completely fails to serve vehicular traffic adequately.
The intervention designed to solve the traffic issue was not only destructive to the city's heritage, but it was also entirely ineffective from a civil engineering standpoint.
If you try to drive through the intersection with Apostolou Pavlou today, you'll be sitting in bumper-to-bumper traffic. It is widely known as an absolute nightmare of a bottleneck.
Yep, total standstill.
So you have cars just sitting there, idling. And because of that, far from being a smooth, hyper-efficient modern road, the street is now actively contributing to the environmental degradation of the wider area.
Exhaust fumes, noise pollution, relentless congestion.
It's a mess.
It's a complete mess. And we can explain exactly why it fails. It goes back to our very first point about urban morphology.
The boundaries.
Yes. You cannot simply force a modern, high-capacity traffic artery through a delicate, historic boundary line. The fluid dynamics of traffic dictate that throughput is determined by the narrowest point.
Right, like water in a pipe.
Exactly. When you funnel disparate historical street widths into a unified flow on a topographical incline like Olympiados, the turbulence is inevitable. The traffic backs up at Apostolou Pavlou because the surrounding medieval fabric of the Poli simply cannot absorb the volume of cars the modern road is trying to feed it.
So if the road widening damaged the monument, but the roads still can't handle the traffic today because the surrounding grid rejects it, didn't we just lose on both fronts?
We absolutely did.
We gave up the ghost of the past, and we didn't even get the convenience of the future.
Precisely. It is a lose-lose scenario brought about by short-term planning. Olympiados acts as a physical manifestation of an inability to prioritize holistically.
Yeah.
The traffic can't flow because the urban fabric wasn't designed for it, and the heritage can't breathe because it's being squeezed by the infrastructure and starved of operational funding.
It paints a tragic yet incredibly fascinating picture of this specific boundary line, this street, Old Athenas, that transitioned into Olympiados. Let's quickly recap this incredible journey for it.
It's quite the journey.
We started by looking at a topographical seam between the upper and lower city, a boundary holding on to stubborn relics like boulders in a river, the fountain, the well, the Karipeion Melathron holding its ground against the modern grid.
A street that absorbed an administrative identity shift, erasing its old name address by address.
And then we dug into the earth to find the Byzantine cistern at number 90. A massive feat of ancient engineering whose vaulted roof was crushed by a bulldozer in the name of a wider road.
Which is heartbreaking.
And a monument that was then painstakingly saved, funded to the tune of nearly 400,000 euros, equipped with trees and ramps, only to fall victim to the trap of CapEx versus OpEx funding.
Padlocked and hidden away from the public for over a decade because no one could pay a security guard to open the gate.
Unbelievable. And finally, we zoomed back out to look at the traffic jam sitting right on top of it. A street that is environmentally degrading, traffic-choked, and entirely failing at the one job it destroyed a monument to achieve.
It is a profound lesson in urban amnesia and the true cost of what we label as progress.
Yeah.
The friction on Olympiados Street is a stark reminder that you cannot simply pave over the complexities of a city's history and expect smooth sailing. The past has a way of pushing back, even if it's just from behind a locked gate, or by refusing to let your modern traffic flow through its ancient artery.
It really is the story of a collision. Which brings me back to where we started, the idea of a map. The expectation that a simple line on a piece of paper guarantees a smooth route from point A to point B.
And the assumption that the ground beneath our tires is just dead dirt, rather than a dense archive of human ambition and failure.
So the next time you were sitting in your car, tapping the steering wheel, frustrated by the endless line of brake lights in front of you, I want you to think about Olympiados Street. I want to leave you with this lingering question to ponder on your own commute today. How many modern, frustratingly congested streets are we driving on right now that act as mere lids over millions of euros of forgotten, locked-away history? Is our daily traffic jam just a parking lot on top of a buried museum?